We are back, everybody, on a Monday night with our guests Amanda Kail and Andy Spears, both talking about the concerns schools face all across not only Tennessee, but really all across the country. But tonight we are focusing on obviously Metro Nashville in particular, the largest district in the state, I believe. That's correct. And what we're going to face here is a possible scenario that Metro Nashville put out of 3 different scenarios, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. We'll get back to our guests, and we left off with you, Amanda, talking about concerns. What are you hearing? And then I want to get Andy's take on this as well. What are you hearing from teachers themselves? Because there's so much uncertainty, I can imagine there's a lot of stress involved.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think teachers right now are stressed out, overwhelmed, and scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think, like Andy was saying, he knows what a high school experience is like and has been like for many years. And as a teacher, like right now, it's hard to know what it is we're preparing for. And I think for teachers, we're used to stressful situations. But the way we deal with that is we plan and we get everything ready. And right now it's hard to know what to plan for. And there is a very real fear for many of our teachers and support staff and everyone else involved that they may have to choose between their health and their job, and that's a scary place to be, especially in the economy that we're in now. And so I think there is a great deal of fear, and again, that's why I think it will be just absolutely necessary that we have educators as well as parents on these committees that are figuring out how we're going to do this.
And Andy, what about your wife? What is she telling you?
Yeah, I mean, my wife is a teacher. She teaches actually theater. And I mean, if you look at the state guidelines, you can't have assemblies, you can't have gatherings, social distancing is a factor. How do you put on production for kids in that environment? More importantly to me, every single day, my wife and my one child go to a school. And my question is it going to be safe?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that. I have not gotten, to be frank, I have not gotten I live in Sumner County. I have not gotten a satisfactory answer to that question. I don't know.
Let's talk a little bit about what Metro Nashville issuing this plan earlier this month. The plan's recommendations, I'm reading directly from the text, have operational minimum guidelines based on 3 levels of community spread of COVID-19. There's no spread to minimal spread, then there's minimal to moderate, and then there is significant spread. And it corresponds to different phases. And a lot of what I'm reading here is they're leaving a lot of this up to individual schools. Is that right, Amanda, as to how to make a judgment?
I think it's more a kind of a district thing.
It is district. Okay.
I know that at the end of the year, when we sort of shut down and went to online, it was very much the case that it was school by school. And in some cases that's necessary because, schools are different, and what's going to work at one school is not necessarily what's going to work at another school. But I do think that it's going to be really important that we have really strong communication. And that there are some baseline expectations set in place across the district, and everybody is very aware of what they are. And so, when you're dealing with something as big and diverse as MNPS, you may need some flexibility.
Right.
But parents need to know that where they're sending their kid is safe. And the employees who work there need to know that where they're going is safe. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that those those baseline
Right.
things are clearly communicated.
You mentioned the cleaning supplies that isn't typically, that's something that it just doesn't come out of thin air. But is there any kind of an emergency funding, either from state or federal government, that schools can get to help supply some of these, cleaning supplies?
There are federal funds available through the CARES Act, so there are resources for that. I think part of the issue will be not only the funding but the securing, because every school system in America is going to be doing the same thing at the same time, and so I think that will be complicated. I know that we have some community partners. I know that the Pencil Foundation has, tried to step up. They frequently supply school supplies. I think in this time, in specific time of need, they have stepped up. But I think it's a monumental undertaking, and so we will have to think about funding, and we will also have to think about the actual capacity to get all of those things, and then to keep supplying them. Because, if you give each a box of tissue and a box of wipes and a thing of hand sanitizer, and that's what they get for the semester, that's probably not going to be enough.
Sure.
So.
And I'm just now reading over some more of this text in which Dr. Adrienne Battle said exactly what you were mentioning, and that is that a unified framework for all schools will give families a clear direction for where the city's going to be in the fall. Then she adds, with the flexibility necessary for individual schools and organizations to develop their own plans based on the needs of their students. So, like you said, there is definitely a unified plan, but some flexibility. Andy, we've never seen anything like this, and schools adapted pretty quickly. I think a lot of people were impressed with how quickly schools were forced to adapt in the spring and finish up online learning and distance learning. If that is the case, do you think schools are prepared if we see a big spike in cases and we just can't it's just not safe to send kids back to the classroom? What do we do? We don't, there's a technology problem. There's a lot of issues, hurdles, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say that I applaud Metro Nashville and Dr. Battle for being forward thinking, and I'm sure Amanda has been part of this conversation. Nashville is doing a great job of getting kids ready. There are districts all across Tennessee that lack the technology and the access. So the plan in Sumner County, where I live, in the spring was, if you didn't have access to Wi-Fi, you could drive to the nearest high school and sit in the parking lot and access the Wi-Fi. We absolutely have to have a better plan than that. Tennessee has to be better than that. That demonstrates the shortfall of the BEP. Districts like Nashville and districts like Memphis that have resources can make these things happen. I am absolutely confident that Nashville will make it happen in the fall. I am not confident that counties around Nashville or rural counties can make it happen, because we don't have the resources, we don't have the legislative and the gubernatorial leadership to make it happen. I applaud Adrienne Battle. I applaud Mayor Cooper for doing great things and making an effort in Nashville. I do. I'm hopeful and thankful that Sumner County, Williamson County, Wilson County will make it happen. If you live in Perry County or Hancock County or Clay County, I don't know what's going to happen to you. I don't.
Right.
Because the technology is not there, the broadband's not there, the state is not committed to that, AT&T is not committed to that. There are a lot of questions. So in the very rural, which is 40 to 50 counties in Tennessee, those very rural districts, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Well, if it comes down
I
to,
am excited by what's happening
Right.
in a lot of counties around here, but there are places where they can be super great, and the technology is just missing, and the funding is missing.
I'm glad you bring up the technology part, because obviously it's a key component if you're distance learning. But we've heard for many, many years now from both sides of the aisle the need for funding for rural broadband access. And it seems like we've made progress there. Obviously, we still have a ways to go, but it seems like both parties have pushed this effort. Maybe this will push it along further, that kind of expose the need even more, especially in the rural areas. No? You're skeptical.
Both parties have done a lot of talking.
Right.
This definitely exposes the reality. So
Okay.
a lot of parties have said, both parties have said, we need rural broadband, we need access. And here we are facing the reality of kids not be able to learn.
Right.
Can we execute? And the answer is right now, the answer is today on June 22nd, the answer is no. So you can talk all you want, and the legislature just left, or you can deliver with money. So maybe this will make them deliver with money.
Yeah. All right. With that, we got to take another break, guys. Apologize, but we will be back. And callers, we're waiting for you. 737 plus if you'd like to join the discussion. Be right back.